Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. This is Reading Through the Generations. I'm Precious. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today. A constant source of joy these days has been sharing my love of reading with the young people in my life. It's been wonderful to introduce them to some of my childhood favorites from when I was their age, but also to see what books they love to read and what books speak to them. It's been a while since I filmed one of these pair and share videos, so I wanted to today. So these are a couple illustrated books that my nieces and I have enjoyed, and I'll be pairing them with some nonfiction reads of mine that I think you will enjoy as well. The one I want to share is this one, Best in Snow by April Pulley Sayre, and this is one of the most gorgeous picture books I've ever come across. It's just filled with absolutely gorgeous nature photographs of various wildlife, such as birds, and the landscape that's all taken in the midst of a snowstorm. And it's told in lyrical form through a lovely poem, and at the back of the book provides little educational tidbits. It's a perfect educational opportunity to introduce the young people in your life to new terminology and to weather cycles that they may be, unfamiliar with. And the nonfiction I want to pair with that one is 50 Words for Snow by Nancy Campbell. This is such an interesting book in that it reads like a series of very succinct essays that provide a sociolinguistic look at 50 very specific words that describe snow. And Campbell delves into the history and etymology of every word, and many of the words Campbell has chosen are in danger of becoming extinct in that they're only used by one community. So many fascinating details that I learned about in this, from how snowy landscapes help to inspire flags, new mythological beings, and how snow patterns have changed through time and how that impacts ecology, human relationships, and survival. If you're interested in culture and language, you have to pick this one up. And a sweet little one we read is Bluebird, Bluebird, which is a sweet nursery rhyme. It's illustrated by Roxanne Ressler. There's some examples, and I think the nursery rhyme is called Bluebird at My Window, which is also a children's game. Let me know if you ever played that growing up. And a fun fact about this nursery rhyme is that first documented by a favorite author of mine, Zora Neale Hurston, who was also an anthropologist, and she collaborated on a research project in the 30s with Alan Lomax, who was responsible for bringing a lot of ethnic folk songs to people's attention. And they both went down to Florida and they documented on film all these musical traditions, and it was this ring game called Bluebird at My Window was first documented on film at that time. And so Hurston documented not only the folk music, but also the folk tales, all in an effort to preserve African American culture. And you can access that from the archive, which I'll link down below. And a book that I want to pair with Bluebird, Bluebird is The Backyard Bird Chronicles, written and illustrated by Amy Tan. One of the most gorgeous books I own. Look at that. Filled with all her magnificent illustrations. This is practically her nature diary. She wanted to fulfill a childhood dream, which was that to learn how to draw. And You know, at that time it was Trump's initial presidency, and there was just a lot of turmoil, volatility, and suffering that you know, continues to this day. And Tan decided to turn to nature and the outdoors as a as it provided her with a sacred place for her, despite all the challenging and difficulties in the world. And she found doing so by feeding the birds and observing them, that she found fuel for, and the sense of reinvigoration of hope. You'll feel inspired to pick up a drawing pencil yourself after reading this book, or at the very least finding a sacred place of your own. Love this one. Another bird book I have is one by Jim Arnosky, all about owls. He is a fantastic wildlife illustrator. I read his entire All About series when I was a child, and this is such a engaging and colorful introduction to owls for children. He has an illustration for each owl species. So here's a great horned owl, and each illustration is accompanied by interesting facts about each species and about their habitats and what you can do to protect them. I highly recommend everything written by Jim Arnosky, especially his All About series, if you have young people in your life. And the nonfiction I am pairing with All About Owls is The Wise Hours by Miriam Darlington. Sadly, I don't own this one. I really enjoy stories that intertwine nature writing with that of memoir, and this is a prime example. Darlington does a beautiful job at incorporating her life's passion, which is that of owls, and it's an interest that she shares with her teenage son Benji. And she describes the owl walks they often go on together, which I think is such a marvelous thing to do. And this isn't like your typical bird book, in that Darlington incorporates her own life experiences and challenges, personal challenges and difficulties, which includes Benji's mysterious neurological illness. He suffers from seizures, and so it's a very reflective and introspective memoir that takes you all across Europe, including Serbia and France, as they both explore this elusive and misunderstood bird. Throughout, I just would be reminded of, you know, personal stories of coming in contact with owls. My partner and I were really into tennis, and we played a lot at a nearby park, and we'd always go at the end of the day because of work and school, and so we'd often be the only ones at the tennis courts, except for this one owl who would be our spectator, and he always had something to say about our backhand. And we have a backyard barn owl that helps keep the rodents at bay over here. And then mother-in-law Carol, she always rescued owls, and so my partner always grew up with them. He grew up with 2 barn owls and a screech owl that lived inside the home, and he was quiet for the most part, except he had this tendency of sneaking up on you and screeching So that's it from me for this week. I'd love to hear about any bird stories you'd like to share. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you would pair with any of these illustrated children's books. I'll see you next time. Take good care, everyone. Bye-bye.